Hello, all you fine, beautiful people. I'm back here once again with another video, and today I am going to be ranking through tier list all the King Crimson albums. Can't wait to do this with you guys and just have you all tell me how absolutely wrong I am. I know King Crimson, some say, is the pioneer of progressive rock, kind of like what some say is like the first progressive rock album. But yeah, whether or not you debate that, that's is what it is, but they are a very interesting band to look at. The only constant member throughout the whole thing has been Robert Fripp. His tentacles throughout this whole band. He's worked with Greg Lake, Boz Burrell, Gordon Haskell. Uh, I believe it's Ian McDonald is one of the guys on there. Bill Bruford's worked with him. Tony Levin, Pat Mastelano, tons of Adrian Belew, tons and tons and tons of musicians. John Wetton, they've come through King Crimson, and yeah, let's get into this. Let's really delve into this because I know I have some opinions on some of these albums. I know people will not agree with, but let's get into it anyway. Alrighty, now I'm just going off the order they have here in here, but before we get into it, the tier list categories are masterpiece, amazing, beautiful, all right, and not a fan. I'm gonna go out a limb and say, at least from here, I don't think this last category might get used. I'm not sure. But I'll just step back and look at these albums and kind of think this out. Because up until like the last few years, I was never like a big into progressive rock, and it did take me a while to understand King Crimson, but I do think they're important. And I remember with Scott on the channel over on the Prog Corner, we talked about all the King Crimson albums, and at that point, I hadn't made it through all of them, but the ones that I did, I really enjoyed. So let's go through this. Let's start off with Beat, mid 80s album. It's the first one here, the blue one with the music note. I think this album is amazing. I think it is. I think what it proved is that Fripp could not only be adventurous, but he could also be commercial, and it felt like a very commercial phase. It's the second one with Adrian Belew, Tony Levin, and Bill Bruford. I think they found something here, and I think it worked. It's a great record. I highly recommend to anyone, especially looking to get into like 80s King Crimson. This might be a great place to start, but just phenomenal. Discipline. Where did I put Discipline? Elephant Talks on this album. Once again, another album I really enjoy. Do I like it more? It's kind of hard because like there's a trilogy of these albums, and it's just which one goes above the other. And I know a lot of people would have this album all the way up here in some aspects. I might actually shock people. I'm gonna put that album there. I feel like, Discipline never really connected with me in the same way Beat did. Like, I really like Beat a lot as a record. Wow. Time to really, also probably stir up a lot of, controversy in this because I know a ton of people would have this up here. No, go back. I know a lot of people have this up here. It's down here for me. It's still an amazing record. Uh, the issue I have with it, I think the songs that really hit, like 21st Century Schizoid Man, Epitaph, Oh, what's the other one? I Talk to the Wind, In the Court of the Crimson King. But there's a couple songs in there that just do not do it for me. And I don't mind mellow King Crimson. I just feel at times they went too mellow. And I kind of like the adventureness of some of King Crimson. And I felt like it was kind of playing it a little too safe. It didn't quite have that punch I was looking for. Islands, I think Islands is a masterpiece. I really do. Peace, the beginning, a theme time, cadence and cascade, in the wake of Poseidon, just great record. Cat food, I believe, is on there too. I think it's a masterpiece. This might be the one that might might get me in a lot of trouble with Crimson fans. I think this album's an absolute masterpiece. I believe it's Mel Collins on sax and woodwinds and all that on this. You have Gordon Haskell, or not Gordon Haskell, you have Boz Burrell on bass. Um, just a great sounding record. Like it was kind of around that time of the revolving door of Crimson members, but Formatera Lady, I always like that song. I love Islands. I think it might be one of the most beautiful songs ever written. It's a song that, even the prelude goes into it. I remember listening to it and just being, like, transfixed into, like, this almost meditative state of zen with this album, and it has its some would say it has its issues, but I still think, like, a lot of this album is really, really good, and I'll definitely put it up there, masterpiece. I'll defend this album a lot. Another album that I know I'm probably gonna get hated for where I put it, Lark's Tongue and Aspic or Aspic. Yeah, it just never clicked with me. Like, some days it does, some days it doesn't. I'm like, it's still a really good album. Like, I'm not willing to say it's crap or anything. It's just one of those where it just never, ever connected with me on the same level as other ones. Actually, you know what? I think it's actually in between Beat and Discipline for me. Lizard, I'll definitely put Lizard at the front of Amazing. You have Circus. It's kind of that jazzy King Crimson, Revolving Door, Gordon Haskell's album. It has John Anderson on this one on the last track. Lizard, I believe, is the last track on this. Fantastic. Like this whole album, start to finish. It's kind of one of those, it kind of goes into that experimental jazz phase that, Fripp went into with these 2 albums with, Mel Collins. I think there is some absolute lush, gorgeous stuff in here, but from start to finish, love it. I'll say, like, the first probably 5, I think if Fripp would have started or stopped King Crimson right in '74, you could actually make an argument that King Crimson's albums were all masterpieces, if not, or I'm not sure if you'd say masterpiece, but there would be nothing I think really below a certain level. Now, commercially, that's a whole nother issue, but it is what it is. Red, for me, Red, fantastic. You can definitely tell a lot of bands really love that record a lot due to the fact of I remember listening to I even think it's the title track Red, and I remember mentioning this to Scott, where I'm like, Red has sections of it where if you listen to, like, just this abrasive section, it's kinda like where, Sweet Dreams definitely feels, "One of them want to use you, one of them wanna be abused." That whole part of it, it feels very similar to, Red by King Crimson. Not a weak song off this album. Absolutely love it. Fantastic. Uh, Starless might be one of the greatest musical achievements. When I say beauty, like probably three of the most beautiful King Crimson songs ever written. That might even bring you to tears. Two of them would be one would be Epitaph from In the Court of the Crimson King, and the other one would be Starless. Just a fantastic song. On to the next one. I think a criminally underrated record for me. I'm gonna put Starless and Bible Black in between Lizard and, or no, I believe it's Circus or Lizard, one of them. I believe it's Lizard, and, In the Court of the Crimson King. Love that a lot. Fantastic album. Amazing, just, like, the experimentation on this and the improv and the fact that they did some studio, some live, mixed them together, and songs like "Fracture" off of there might be in, like, top 5 King Crimson moments for me. Absolutely love it. "The Construction of Light," I believe is the next one. I think this album's beautiful, just missing something for me. I'm gonna have to probably go back and listen to it again. I think it's an alright album. "The Power to Believe," the next one, I think is better. I kinda rank these in the same way. Not like a, massive fan of them. I know it's later era with, Pat Mastelano, I believe is the drummer on this. Still has Baloo. I believe still has Levin on it, so still pretty good. Thrak, I believe, is this one. I actually really dug this when I listened to it. Put it in between Larks and, Discipline there. Oh, and now the album. Some would say left the best for last, or some might say actually maybe the weakest. I'm gonna put this. I know it has its fans. Three of a Perfect Pair. But hear me out about this. I think the album, and I know it's part of this trilogy, and you're like, you have Beat up here, you have Discipline up here. How can this be down here? For me, it all goes back to, I think, the pop stuff. I don't think it's strong on this, as strong as this. And I think it really kind of holds the album back. It felt like kind of, it kind of feels like a schizophrenic album. This is the best way to describe it. An album where it doesn't know what the heck it wants to be. And that's just how I feel about looking at it, at least for me, because I'm listening to this and I'm like, I believe this is where it comes. A Lark's Tongue and Aspic Part 3, I think, is on this. And I want to say the experimentation side of this I find really interesting, but it's more dragged down by the pop side. And that's always kind of been where I kind of feel it is. For me, like, it's nothing that I really ever feel a strong calling to go back and listen to. Usually, whenever I do a deep dive into King Crimson and listen to them in like order or something, that's usually the only time. Like anytime I'm doing like a deep dive on King Crimson, is usually the only time I ever go listen to this album because I feel the other ones are actually really, really strong. But anyway, that's my thoughts and opinions. I'd love to know what you guys think. I know King Crimson fans are going to tell me I'm dead wrong. How dare you have some of those albums where you have them? I can already hear Scott going, "You're wrong, Wayne. You're dead wrong with this one." But this is quite honestly how I feel. Like I think King Crimson's a band that is not for the faint of heart. Like they are, as Scott put it, capital P prog, definitely challenging listens, but I really feel strongly in this list, and I know there's some of these albums. This album I love. This album I love. This album I love. I think they're all masterpieces. I think once you get into like Lizard, Starless Bible Black, Court of the Crimson King, Beat, Lark's Tongues, Aspic, Lark's Tongues and Aspic, Thrack, and you got Discipline. I know there's people out there that'll probably absolutely say I'm full of it, that I even have Discipline that low, but it's an album that I wanna say it's a good record. It just never captured me as much as Beat did, like, over the last, like, number of weeks, like, I went back to listen to some of these where I was kind of, like, on the fence about doing this for it, and definitely thought, "You know what? I love Beat," and for some reason, I'm not sure what it is, like, it's a great pop kind of pop prog record, but I just like this one so much more. Starless Bible Black. I know there's some people that'll say this is like up here. Like I know my buddy Scott loves this record. To me, it's just never hit me as much as like this did, or even this did. Like I was shocked when I thought about it. I'm like, what's my favorite King Crimson record? And going through it, and I'm like, after listening to it again, I'm like, Islands for me is my favorite. And this is what I love about this list is you could have like 30 gazillion different lists and they'd all be different. But anyway, that's my thoughts and opinions. I'd love to know what you guys think. I know it's kind of a quick, just kind of put them on here. Like, this is just, like I said, how I feel where these albums kind of belong at this moment. Could this change in a couple of years? Yeah, could. Could it change tomorrow? Definitely. I think the great thing about this is music is subjective and we're always open to change, new ideas. Maybe it is where you are in life at the moment. But anyway, that's my thoughts and opinions. Once again, like I said, I'd love to know what you guys think. I think King Crimson, fantastic band. But once again, hey, thank you guys so much for watching. It really, really does mean a lot. This is me here signing out.